Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to another Dead by Daylight creation reviews. Despite what the title says, I actually have to change it because, as always, I am running everything from the OBS through Restream to, well, now YouTube. I turned the Twitch portion off, but YouTube and Discord. So, yeah. Yay! Twitch does not get any Dead by Daylight content except for possibly gameplay if I'm feeling up to it. I might turn it on for gameplay. But other than that, I really have no particular reason to. And the screen's gonna look a little bit scuffed for a second. I have to grab my description. Now, I could add this to Restream, but then that means every time I launch up Splinter Cell, I'm going to have to rechange everything, which gets kind of a pain in the butt because Splinter Cell doesn't like to work properly the first time I always launch it, and I always have to launch it like 2 or 3 times. Just on a side note, as we're waiting on everybody to come in, I started the Blacklist series. We went over the beginning stuff, and we went and rescued Corbin, of all people, from a CIA safe house and saved him from an interrogation, and that's where we ended Blacklist at. Those of you who don't remember Corbin, he's the one that essentially faked Sarah's death. He's the one that found the chick, that looked like Sarah, faked her death, got her hit by a car, all of that. So Sam doesn't necessarily like Corbin. He also bragged about taking his daughter's life and all of this other crap in conviction before Sam beat the ever living crap out of him. Twice. And he still stayed alive throughout all of that. Corbin's very lucky. Today, or not today, later today, probably sometime in the afternoon. I mean, it's 11 o'clock now, so that's within the next couple of hours, possibly even right after this. I'll be continuing my Blacklist run through. I'm not necessarily looking for a crowd onto this particular series. A lot of people don't like Blacklist because it's a different Sam. I'll call him Beta Sam, but he's just old and angry about everything. And very sensitive. And Blacklist. It's not the same voice actors for any of the people, except maybe Grimm. She might have the same voice, I'm not sure. But the rest, no. It's all different people that made the game, etc., etc. Possibly the Convictions team made this, because it's similar in how it plays. The movement's a lot faster. There's more gear and things that you have to customize and a whole bunch of other things. So if you look forward to that, there'll be more of that later on. I'm only going to play one mission a day. Now, today's particular content, what we are going to be doing is, instead of me doing what I generally do, and I go through one concept, kind of lackluster, jump into the next concept, jump into the next concept, jump into the next concept, and then by that time I'm salty and it doesn't matter. What I'm gonna do is, if it's a concept that I've went over before, we're just gonna go see whatever's updated. If it's something that's about something that's already coming out, I mean, it's gonna get it's a little bit of time and we're gonna go past it. However, If it's something that's actually new content, whether it's a perk or a killer or anything like that, I'm going to take a significant amount of time talking about everything about the particular subject before I move on to the next subject. If it's a full concept or chapter idea, I will be spending a lot more time on the particular subject before I move to the next concept. So I'm going to be spending a lot more time. So it'd be like the past when I first started, where I used to go into a particular concept, break it and shake it down, shake all the loose leaves out of it, and then I would go in and, add a little fertilizer to help it grow back, better leaves. Yes, that's my analogy, and I'm sticking to it. That's what think I'm going to do. So, chat's already up on screen, so if you type anything, I will see it. It's pinned to my screen, so I have no choice but to see it. So feel free to chime in and say whatever you think, whenever you think it, whether I'm completely wrong, right, or whatever. Without further ado, let's hop on in this. Cassandra Cutthroat, I've went through and I've done this before. I just want to see what's added. One thing, if you add something that would help, at least me in general out, or anybody else that has seen your concept before, so they don't have to reread through the same thing over and over. You can add edit notes, you can do the scratched off text. So, hang on, let me start a new discussion. I'll come back to this. If I put 2 plus, let's add 2 plus 2 equals 4. But I guess I'd have to be wrong. And then afterwards, I corrected it at 2 plus 2 equals 4. Instead of deleting the old stuff that you have and then updating it and then somebody else coming through, anything that's already put in that you don't necessarily want people to see, but you want them to see that you've made a change, use the scratch text button right here. Bam. So that right there shows me that you've made a change to the 2 plus 2 equals 6 and you changed it to 2 plus 2 equals 4. So I don't have to read through the entire wall of text that I've read through before, which in essence, I'm going to skim through it. And if anything was made between the parts that I'm skimming through, I'll say, well, this is the same. They must not have changed much. When something, obviously was changed because it was edited. So when it comes to things like that, just use the scratch text. If you get it wrong again, 2 plus 2 equals 5, then you 2 plus 2 equals 4. You literally highlight text. I do not even know what happened there. That was amazing. You highlight the text, and then you click that button right there, which just scratches it out. So the old, information was there. And we can see that you've been editing it to be better, to be better, to be better, till you finally got what you were looking for. Again, you can hit the paragraphs that makes the headers different. You can add bullet points, or you can add numbers. You can add quotation marks. If you want to emphasize something, you can add spoiler code. You can do code block. Don't use code block. I'm just going to let you know now, unless you actually are coding something and you're talking about code, don't use code block. It's the stuff that looks like this. Like if you're actually putting in, iron grasp activation equals true or something like that, use code block. But if you don't know what you're doing with it or you don't know how to properly apply it, I recommend not. I mean, you can, but it makes everything tiny and it isolates it in a particular bar. How codes usually implement it. If you type the wrong thing in a code block, you can actually send a code through to your computer. So be careful if you're trying to type in code or do something funny. Either way, we're gonna go back down to Cassandra Cutthroat. I did a review of her 2 days ago, maybe. Essentially, she has a hook that can grab survivors, and she has a saber, which has extra long reach that she can slap survivors. That's her two main attacks. Her deep end is the treasure chest thing. One treasure chest has the key, the others will injure a survivor. And or put an injured survivor into a down state. Switchblade allows her to switch from the hook to the saber. I think he called it a saber. Or does he just say sword? This is a saber. Not a scimitar. It's a saber. Again, there's nothing that I see that's edited, except maybe this right here. Maybe this was added in. Yeah, this was added in, and then the lore was added in. So anybody that wants to see the actual lore for this particular killer concept, here you go. And that's the only thing that was added in. So I am out. We've went over everything else. I wish this person would close this poll so it stops popping up every single time. It's been open for a couple of days. They need to go back in and close the poll. It's been up since December 13th. It's been 5 days. Definitely. Or a mod should come. I think mods can only close polls after 7 days, though, after a week's gone by. I think that's when they can officially close the polls. So the mods can't really do it. This person will have to until that time limit reaches. Either 7 or 10 days. I don't remember. This is just another guy complaining about killer perks and powers needing to be nerfed. This guy is trying to suss out the powers of the new killer, which we said yesterday. Behaviors on that. Let's see. Rewind. Press the power button, aim in an area, release the button to cast a curse that affects everyone in a small area. Survivors hit by this AoE curse will teleport back to the place they were 4 seconds ago. That, sir, is called lag and server latency. There is enough teleporting and latency in the game. There's no way they would incorporate just an instant teleport back to where you were. That would break a lot of things and would take a long amount of time to code. I don't see it happening. I could be wrong. And when it comes out, if I'm wrong, bravo, guy. Bravo. It's not going to be implemented in the way you think it is, though. But, yeah. Traps replay. Sadako records her last 3 attacks occurred in a dimension. Press control to cast 3 cursed arms at the 3 last locations. So essentially, you pre-program your hits, and as the survivors run through, you can press the button, and all 3 hits will play simultaneously. Um, Instead of using any type of replay feature and thing like that, why not just make them activatable traps? So as a survivor goes through them, you can click the trap to activate it, and then boom, it gets them. You know, why make it super complicated and make yourself do something like that? I mean, they could incorporate it. It would be a cool concept if you can post your body in 3 different locations and then As you click the button, you can teleport from one place to another to another. So let's say you're facing somebody who's running Kill Shack. You can put your body one in front of the pallet, one in front of the window, one in front of the door. And as the survivor loops into the shack and they're trying to run towards the window, you teleport to the other side of the window, either catching them or injuring them or stopping them because you think it's funny. They panic, turn to run towards the pallet. You then teleport over in front of them, right in front of the pallet, scaring the crap out of them again. Maybe they run for the door, maybe they hop window or something like that. And then you teleport over to the door if they try to run that way. And that's your full cycle. Obviously, it's the same as the hag in her teleports when she's using add-ons. So it's going to be something a little bit different and a little bit heavily incorporated. But that would be an interesting effect, having a killer instead of illusions popping up around you, being the actual killer that pops up around you. I think I've humored that enough for the most part. We can head on to bigger and better things. Also, I'm taking the time because, as you can see, I am on the first page and there's not a lot of crap because Christmas is coming up. Running out of ideas, running out of things. Second page, there might be one or two things. The Fall of the Nurse by Badger. The Gladiator, two things were added to it. That was a very good concept. I might actually check that out now. For those of you that remember the Gladiator. um, Again, whatever he changed, if he would have just highlighted, like if he wanted to change the 10% to 20% or something, highlighted the 10%, crossed it out, and then put 20%. One, it lets us know that that particular thing's been changed and has already been rebalanced, at least to your mindset. And two, somebody's not going to immediately come back and say, 10% would have worked better. And then you'd be changing back and forth. I don't see any new things added, particularly and with any of this. So, unfortunately, I would like to go over what's new, but I don't remember because I haven't spent, multiple days working on this particular thing. These are both from December 8th, so I have no idea. That's another one. If you just use the tools that are in front of you, I could go back in, re-go over the things that you went over, and things would be cool. But instead of just using, the tools that you have in front of you to show me what's new and what you've worked on and things like that, and, what you've been improving on, nothing. Not going back into that. I've seen this. I'm not going back there. Killer and Survivor concept from the past. By Anniehere. Alright, these characters are from 1992 and the same country. And what country is that? Because if you say a random country and you know nothing about their particular mannerisms or habits or anything like that, and you say something crazy, people will probably call you out on that, especially if it's to be implemented into the main game. I usually don't harp about lore and things like that, but your lore has to be semi-realistic when they were humans or something like that. You don't want to have Captain America pop in as a survivor in Dead by Daylight, because obviously He's a superhuman. And everybody part of the Dead by Daylight cast, at least human-wise, don't have superpowers, Ash included. Leon included. So 1992, they're both located somewhere in the same area. Nobody knows. Natasha Pavlov. I mean, this could assume that it's Russia. Yeah, Russia. There you go. Russian high school student in 1993. Wait, what? Natasha Pavlov. And then it goes Egor Oldenburg. You, okay, so this top right here is Natasha Pavlov. Okay, because it says Natasha here. And then you separate this, son. Separate this. Why put her here and then put her name at the bottom? I mean, I know you're trying to make it story-wise and things like that. One, the Natasha Pavlov needs to be right after the dash. Two, you would want to say her name somewhere up here before all of this starts. Like here, you put their name there towards the top, so I know who this is. But if you go by this, there's nothing here. I don't know. It's just weird. I ain't gonna harp on it. Even though I said I was gonna go into detail about everything, that's just very confusing. And then here's a sketch of Natasha's character after Edgar was talked about. But then there's nothing of Edgar. No picture, no anything. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You're mixing up Natasha and Edward all just jumbled up into this. Keep your overview separate. Again, you have tools. Epic pen. I'm going to have to ask you to go away for a second. You have tools. Keep your overview separate. Wherever it starts and ends at. Then start Natasha's story. Let it flow through. You can put a dash. I would just use a separate header, or, you know, use paragraph style or anything to separate this conglomeration of words and spaces and everything else. Instead of putting dashes, use the tools that are in front of you to make your stuff look better. It's sheer laziness is what it comes down to. And you can't say you didn't know the tools were there. Most people don't know how to use them, so they shy away from them. But look. If I write a conglomeration, the entire time I'm writing, this thing pops up. If I go in and I click anywhere, this thing follows. If I highlight anything, this thing pops up automatically. So you can't say that you didn't know it's there because it's constantly there. You would think that one time you would click on it and then, you know, do things like that or mess with it or something like that. Don't just sit there and ignore its existence. It's there to help you. Anyway, skipping all of this, we're going to go down to perks. I'm going to assume they're survivors and not killers. After healing 2 survivors, focus activates. Focus will prevent the generator explosion on the generator you are working on. What does healing survivors have anything to do with a generator explosion? Then, on top of that, you have name here, activation here, what activation does here. Then on the next perk, you have name here, activation, what perk does, all jammed together, and then you have a quote at the end. Then you go back to name, activation, I'm assuming, and then what quote does, or perk does, slammed together. Spaced, space, space, jammed together with a quote, jammed together. You've literally did 3 things in 3 different ways. The only thing that's the same is the no pictures and the actual things, because you use dbdperkmaker.com and you literally just deleted and rewrote things that were already there. You had examples in front of you on how to write these better, and you still just went off on your own and did whatever you wanted to do. Again, I'm going to spend a significant more time on everything, and I'm going to try to pull everything apart as opposed to just skimming through, going over something, and then throwing it away. 1. Up here, killer and survivor concept from the past. 1, I know you started survivors first, and I don't even see a killer. So you definitely want to add the words work in progress, WIP, somewhere into your title so people know. Because if not, you're going to have people looking all over the place. I mean, it says large spider legs grabbed her from the cold floor. Okay, something about a spider. But there isn't anything. Now, here it is. There's the killer. It just didn't scroll down far enough. I thought that was the end, because how it stopped like that. So there's the killer. I ain't go down far enough. That's on me. But still, I would add work in progress. That don't change. You have a basic sketch of her. That's nice. But I mean, you could go into more detail if you wanted to. You don't have to. It's nice as is. If you're going to use dbdperkmaker.com, upload something into these spots. You're artistic enough to create something like this, or at least to have something like this, you know. So why not make sketches, or just go and search, focus, search somebody focusing and add it into the box. It doesn't matter if it's copyrighted or not, but if you're going to use the tools all the way. Like when you're making the post, you use the Dead by Daylight form tools to get that professionalism, to get your story to where people can understand it and it's clear and easy to read. There's a lot of creators that are lazy. They go through, I wrote this information, dash, this information, dash, this information, dash. This should have been whenever or wherever you were explaining Natasha. Should have been posted wherever. I'm going to assume it says short backgrounds. This seems like kind of an overview of the entire thing. So, I don't know. Natasha has no background. Egor Oldenburg has a background. Like, he actually has a background for the killer. The survivor has no background. The only thing you know is that there's a little story about the two of them being together and spiders and all this other crap, but there's no background. This is like an overview of the survivors and the killers and how they come together, like the little short story. So I guess it's technically an overview. It's just not an overview of the perks or powers. So this is just an overview of both of them together, or her and some sort of spider, and how she got pulled into the world. This is literally her bio, and then Egor has this huge bio. So she needs something added to her. Sketch is fine. Again, if you're going to use DBD Perk Maker, add in something there. It literally gives you the ability to just pop that in. Focus, teachable perk, non-life, teachable perk, devious information, teachable perk. You fill these in, And then as things are being wrote, it gives you the ability to literally do all of these things. However, you couldn't keep your words and everything that you're trying to incorporate uniform, which is what's causing this particular problem. I haven't even gotten to the actual concept or went over anything, and this already needs to be changed. You want to make it as simple as possible. Simple. You want to make it condensed, so you're not repeating things over and over and over like typically I am. If I had an editor, or if I edited, I would be cutting out 3/4 of my footage because I repeat myself a lot. I don't have an editor, and I don't have the time to edit videos and all of that anymore because I'm running a dual series with Splinter Cell and things like that. So this is what you stuck with, Sonny. But for one last time, just make it uniform and easy to read. So after healing 2 survivors, focus activates. And then you put a space. Focus. Well, now it's called Focused Will. So is it Focus, the teachable perk, or is it Focus Will? Focused Will. Or is this a typo? Maybe this is a typo when you're trying to say Focused Will prevent the generator explosion on the current generator you're working on, or on the generator you are working on. Again, I know English probably isn't your first language and things like that, but I mean, most people will translate everything in their brain. You don't have to worry about the spelling and things like that. It's fine. You explained what the perk is focus. After healing 2 survivors, focus activates. Cool. Focus prevents the generator from exploding while you were working on it. I understand this. Cool. I don't know why. Healing survivors, you would want to prevent the generator from working on when you have technician. You have, well, technician prevents your generator from exploding, which has a negative associated with it. You get more regression penalty. You have the new guy, I don't remember what his name is. When you get great skill checks, you make it to where anybody else failing a skill check and cooperative actions with you no longer fail said skill check. And now you have this, that after healing 2 survivors, whatever generator you're working on will not explode. I don't see where this particular perk has any need to fit into the particular game as it is. Just run Fingman's perk. Yes, you're going to get extra regression when you fail skill checks, but I mean, you're not going to be failing skill checks for very long, unless you know it's like Huntress's Lullaby and you're new to the game. Like within your first month of playing, you should have majority of things figured out. You're not going to be a pro, but you're going to be able to decently know how to run loops, how to get away from killer, how to play the basic game. You should have your skill checks for the most part locked down. Albeit you don't run against, Huntress's Lullaby often nowadays, so when it does pop up, it could give you trouble. But that's a perk affecting your actual skill check, not just regular skill checks. So, focus really has no reason to be implemented into the game. It's just giving new people a boost, or survive with friends a boost, to where they don't have to worry about skill checks. So as it sits, I would say that focus you really don't need. On lives, after freeing yourself from a trap or activating a trap, break into a sprint at 150% of your normal running speed for a maximum of 3 seconds. Causes the exhaustion status effect for 60, 50, and 40 seconds. One, this is just sprint burst that allows you to sprint after getting trapped. The whole point and penalty of a trap is that you fell into it. Traps are set up so that when your prey falls into said trap, you are able to go and get said prey. Instead of getting a perk that, well, as soon as I get out of a trap, I get the run at a sprint burst, scotch free, you know, no type of negatives or anything like that. Why not? Like, this literally is just a shot at the trapper, is essentially what it is. The only person that has any type of trap that you can stop into that you have to free yourself from is the trapper. Freddy has nightmare traps, and you know, other people have things that works as traps like pyramid head trail, things like that. But they don't keep you in place and force you to open it. So you adding this in doesn't make any sense. I mean, there's things like Smash Hit, which is based off, you know, stunning killer, you know, throwing pallets. That makes sense. Every single killer you go up against, you're going to be wanting to throw pallets. Balanced landing. If you're being chased and you jump off of something, you want to keep that movement. It doesn't matter which killer you're going up against to get any perk value. Things like that. Even spine chill. It doesn't matter what kind of killer you're going up against, you're going to get value regardless. This literally is just saying F you trapper, because that's the only one that'll actually take any type of effect on. So instead of using the word trap, I would change that to something else, and then you just made another generic perk that activates. Keep in mind that perks that give you haste or sprint burst or something like that are made to incorporate parkour movement into the game. I said this yesterday, I guess I'll go over it again. If you run live is to make it like a fast running vault parkour movement, because all you can do is just run. You have the vaulting animation, and then you get a burst in speed. It takes you all the way to where you would have gone if it was just a continuous parkour movement. So instead of doing that one leg or one arm vault that they do when they pull themselves, you know, sideways away, they're giving them the enough speed if somebody else did a parkour move that gave you speed, like the running two-handed vault that gives you, you know, forward momentum. You end up in the same place as that. Smash hit. The time you're spent in animation, dropping the pallet, and then turning around and running. It gives you the sprint burst to be at the same spot as if you just ran through, slapped the pallet down with one hand behind you, and continued moving forward. They're not made to necessarily get you away. They're made to get you the time that you wasted during an animation. Same with sprint burst. You save sprint burst for when the killer gets close or if the killer's after you to make up for lost time that you spent walking or hiding or doing something else. It gives you that sprint burst whether or not, you know, you would have left early or you would have kept going forward and running as opposed to getting caught while you're in sprint burst. It's made to make up for lost time. All of these perks have the same wiring in them to make up for lost time that you spent doing something, working on a generator, instead of running away. Sprint burst makes up for that lost time that you spent working on the generator and all of that. It gives you the lost time that you lost doing that back by giving you an increase in speed. And that's what all of these perks that you have are made for. More like continuous parkour movement or continuous speed movement as opposed to being stuck in an animation. That's it. Freeing yourself from a trap would work if all killers could trap you or in some sort of way. Now, if you would have said, freeing yourself from a hook, well, no, because there's another perk for that another survivor can give you. So that don't necessarily work too. You can actually run it with borrowed time, which gives, after an unhook, it gives them a speed boost, and you can give them borrowed time. So, no. The only thing this is a direct jab at is Trapper. So no, that's not fair to Trapper, and no survivors are ever gonna run your particular perk because you can't tell what killer you're going up against. So here, run Technician. Here, it's just anti-Trapper. That's it. Then Devious Information. Standing within the killer's tear radius while not in a chase activates Devious Information, allowing you to see the auras of totems and traps within 16 meters for 4, 6, 8 seconds. Instead of using the word traps, use the word killer's equipment. K.E. Killer's equipment. So one, you need to add in a time. Standing within killer's tear radius while not in a chase activates killer's information. This is going to be very hard to write. Actually, I'm just going to abbreviate that because that looks like absolute doo-doo. Here, you're looking for the time, a time activation. Standing in killer's tear radius for 30 seconds, or 15 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, who knows? Because the problem that you have is staying within the killer's tear radius without being chased allows you to see every single totem in the map. So now there's not even any point of even running totem perks because you can literally see where every single totem is on the map. And on top of that, instead of traps, seeing killer's equipment within 16 meters for 8 seconds. So if you are going up against a trapper or anything else that uses particular equipment, aka, lockers, things like that, it gives you more usability. Are you saying auras of totems and traps within 16 meters? I think it's all one thing. Oh, then this makes this perk weak as hell. So looking on this on the flip side, you have to sit in the killer's tear radius and you can only see 16 meters out for 8 seconds. That's terrible. I mean, if you're by a trapper and all of that, again, it's kind of anti-trapper, even with killer's equipment and props and things like that. However, you can get a lot more information through killer equipment. Even this trapper based, if you just use killer equipment. You'd incorporate pig, you'd incorporate trapper, you could technically incorporate, trickster and things like that. And get a whole bunch of different activations as opposed to just anti-trapper. I don't know why you hate trapper so much. 16 meters isn't a lot. That's about half the killer's tear radius. standard killer's terror radius. You're not gonna see a lot. The totems and all of that in the particular area you're camping at, yeah, you'll see any totems around the particular generator. But at this time, you are sitting near a killer and not putting time in generator. You could just run the totem finding perk, which gives you a lot more range and a lot more honing ability than running this particular perk. So no, I would definitely say all of these particular perks aren't useful for a base game Dead by Daylight. They have either things that are better, they counter them, or it's based off of something that already exists. So the Survivor, I would recommend you rework all of this. Again, add work in progress to the top because it's not even a completed concept. I would recommend you rework all of your particular perks and just start from new. Don't try to add, try to edit these or anything and make them feasible or usable. Just flush them out, empty your mind, start new. And for the love of God, for me personally, I beg you, don't try to combine any of these together and try to make one perk. Please don't do it. Because I've had people I've gave advice to, and then all they said was, oh, well, this is weak, this is weak, and this is weak. Let's combine them together in some weird way, and let's create the ultimate perk. Now you're taking the 3 perks that I pointed out, and you're jamming them together, and then nerfing it a little bit, and you're interrupting 3 perks that are already implemented into the game. Please don't do that. Killer. You have a trap killer, which makes sense why all of this is based around traps and things like that. Definitely use killer equipment instead of just traps. Because if you say killer equipment and things like that, technically the artist who sets down traps and things like that, that would technically give you an activation after getting rid of the crows and stuff too. It could technically work on Ghostface and a lot of things like that. So instead of even using killer equipment, you can just say, after freeing yourself from a killer ability, break into a sprint. And you can even upgrade this to do even better things. But like I said, flush all of this trap nonsense and then try to incorporate something new, something unique, something that makes your survivor's perks worth getting and or buying. So let's say that's a perk that's worth buying that you would spend your actual money on. Killer, Edgar, looks like a beggar, gray thin hair covering his ears. His weapon's a shovel. His power is Deadly Trap. Press the power button to dig Deadly Trap on the ground. In front of you, when at least 2 deadly traps are set, press the attack button to send the lifeless being. Let me go back to full screen. The lifeless being to drag survivors within a close proximity to any activated deadly trap. Survivors who walked into the deadly trap or grabbed by the lifeless being inside the trap will get trapped and immobilized and will face a skill check to escape or have another survivor rescue them. Your spell check should have picked that up. That's fine. Well, I guess not, but you know. All survivors within a close proximity to any activated deadly trap will be indicated by Killer Instinct. So what you're saying is you are the trapper, but you can summon a being to drag survivors into your traps. Is that what I'm getting from? You dig a deadly trap. One, there's obvious things that are missing. One, what is the maximum number of traps that you can put down at one time? 2, what do they do besides immobilizing said survivor? If I wanted to put down traps that immobilize survivors, I already have that and add-ons through the trapper. After putting 2 down, I can release this lifeless being. It doesn't say what speed that he comes from or anything like that. So I guess we are looking for, in this particular case, we're looking for speed. We're looking for time activations. So speed and time activations. And then we're also looking for, I'm just going to put an E for effects. Any type of effects that makes it worthwhile besides immobilization. Trapper already has immobilization. You need to come up with something unique. So I guess instead of just straight up saying E, we're going to be looking for, what the heck did I do? Oh, because I did it 3 different swipes. We're going to be looking for unique effects. I wish I had a stylus. Then we're going to be looking for, obviously, cooldown times. And then, for the most part, usability. Then there's other things, but those are going to be the main things you're wanting to actually look for. None of that is thought out, and I understand you're using the Dead by Daylight's perks and all of that, or the Dead by Daylight perk maker, but after writing this, you need to, underneath it, further explain your power. There should be something underneath this explaining what every single one of these things do if it needs further explanation. This is fine. However, unlike Dead by Daylight or any other game, if I highlight Killer Instinct, Killer Instinct pops up and tells me what it does in Dead by Daylight. I'm not saying to define Killer Instinct, that's just an example. Any colorful words like that, I can go like this, and it gives you, subtext of what that does. If I go to your traps and all of this and your lifeless being, and I highlight them, I don't know what this lifeless being by itself does, its speed or its movement speed. I don't know any of that crap. I just know that it's a thing that goes to survivors and pulls them into a trap. 1, why even have the deadly trap be a thing? What you could easily do, as a suggestion from me personally, is get rid of the deadly trap and just make his power the lifeless being. The lifeless beings do, all of the bull crap that's down here, and that's different power, even though it's similar to Trapper, but now it's a moving power as opposed to a moving Trapper that as you do things, it happens, as opposed to you doing the same thing the Trapper does, then summoning something that has to go find a survivor and then drag them to a particular trap. The survivor is going to have to be able to break free from said trap, so when the survivor gets grabbed by the lifeless being, needs to do something as well. So get rid of the deadly trap and just make it to where the end, the lifeless being walks around. That's his power. He summons lifeless beings. The lifeless beings then go after the particular survivors. You're going to have to make it unique, that it's different from the artist's crows or ravens or whatever you want to call it. You're also going to have to make it unique to where it's different from Nemesis's zombies. So, making them autonomous and them running around or spawning around and walking around in random directions and things like that isn't going to necessarily work. And then making it to where they sit in an area and then just run like the artist's crows or ravens or whatever you want to call them. I'm going to call them crows because it's to the game. You can't use anything that's a timing and an activation like that either. And you also can't make it be like the Trapper unless you're trying to go for an alternative style killer of Trapper. If so, then, this needs to be heavily updated and heavily flushed out before I'll even think about giving it that title. But if you make them sit still and just move or grab survivors as they go by, it's going to be just a Trapper with moving beings. So it's going to have something different that's not just it just sitting there and waiting. And that's going to be a heck of a tall order to have to incorporate that into the game and also make it separate and unique from everything else. So good luck. Punctualist. First perk, whenever a generator is repaired to 70%, survivors suffer from a 9% action speed penalty. So you're trying to make something that pairs with Tinker. But my question becomes, why would I run your perk over Tinker? Why would I go in here? Because after they repaired to 70%, the survivor suffers a 9% action speed penalty. Whatever, 80 minus 24. So at 56 seconds. 56 seconds is on a generator. Progress, 56 seconds is 70%. So at 56 out of 80 seconds, this perk activates. And now they're going to do everything at a 9% action speed penalty. Everything that they do, but more importantly, the gen is going to be done. At a 9% speed penalty. So the last 24 seconds that you have to do is going to take you like 2.3 seconds longer. So you've managed to extend a generator from going off like 2.3, roundabouts 2.4 seconds. We'll go 10%, 2.4 seconds time. And a lot of people that add these in don't understand or they don't do the math to see how either useless or how great their particular perks is. They just throw in a random number that they think is good. Oh, 10% sounds nice. Let's just use 10%. They said the generator is most of the time done, or most of the way done. If you activated this particular function at the beginning of them doing a generator, at 10%, you're only making them stay on the generator an extra 8 seconds. 8 seconds times 5 generators, that's an extra 40 seconds of gen time. This activates, you're saving 2.4 seconds over the course of 5 generators. You're making them go, what, 16, 17 seconds more? Or an extra 2.4 seconds per generator? 2.4 seconds on a generator timer isn't even going to be noticeable to survivors. They're not even going to notice it. Most survivors can't even tell when there's like a 10% time cut from the generator. They're just sitting there holding a button until it finishes. The only time you really get a notice is when, like Thatanophobia really comes in and starts hitting you over and over and over and stacked fully. Or any other perk like that that takes like 20% off. Which is like another 17.5 seconds. Something like that. I think that's what the number I came to was, like 17.5 seconds or something like that. I don't remember the math back then. 17.25, I think, is what it was. So that's significant at 20%, but at 9%, which I rounded even up to 10%, you're not doing much. So, in essence, if you want to run something like this, you definitely need to buff up the higher end of that. You also need to make it equal to that last 70%. Now, I'm not saying to go overboard when buffing this perk and being like, oh, well, it's just going to block off the generator after, 70%, the generator gets blocked for 30 seconds. I'm not saying it needs to be buffed to do something like that, because now you're going in the wrong direction. But I would recommend, if you want to incorporate a perk that activates as a generator is being done, you balance it to whatever number of what you're using. 70% is what you're using. You need to balance your other numbers towards this. This would stack nice with Tinkerer if it doesn't, another perk doesn't already incorporate that already. It would stack very nice with Tinkerer because it gives you the ability to use your undetective status effect that you get, and also it keeps the survivors there for a little bit longer, which gives you the ability to finish up whatever chase you're in or immediately dip and head that direction. So this perk ain't bad. Punctilious, it's not bad. It just needs to be buffed. Or if you want to keep it the same and only make it do 2.4% speed on Gen, I'm not even going to talk about med kits or anything like that, or totems or anything crazy, because the highest number you'll get out of this is generators. I don't even need to go over the other actions. Balance it better. And this is based off the fact that I can't think off the top of my head any other perk that affects anything like this. If there is another perk that obviously takes precedence over it, then no, I'll have to say no, this perk can't be incorporated. If there isn't any other perk like this, then it's fine. Just buff it and don't overbuff it. Rebalance it better. You want to balance it upwards, not downwards. So, very well good. Very well made. Again, it doesn't have pictures or anything. You use the program that gives you the ability to put any kind of picture. Use it. If you really want to keep it in a Dead by Daylight theme, they have filters that you can run regular pictures through to make them the outline filled or pictures like Dead by Daylight has. You can literally do that and then post it in there if you want to keep it themed for theme. You can also post regular pictures. But post something. You have the ability to do it. Do it. Next, Obdus. Every time you hit a survivor with your basic attack, survivor vision will become darker every 16, 12, and 8 seconds. Also, cooldown period. This needs a deactivation. One, this is only going towards the specific survivor that's working on said generator, but this needs to have some sort of cooldown period and it needs to be buffed to associate all of that together. Because if not, if one survivor does all 5 generators, the first generator is going to take 2.4 seconds. The second generator is going to take 4.8 seconds. This is rounded by 10, 4.8 seconds longer. The third generator, and it's just going to keep adding 2.4 seconds over and over and over. Then you get 6 seconds up, and then you end up getting like 8.4 at the last. I mean, it just keeps going up 2.4 seconds each generator. That's not significant generator-wise, but if you think about just regular action speed, if you do 2 generators, that's a negative 18% action speed. Now that is significant. But if you're going to keep something that happens throughout the entire game that applies to survivors, you're going to have a deactivation. So if you want to run it like that without the cooldowns and all of that, I do recommend down buff or nerfing it and adding in the fact that it's going to be a hex perk or a scourge hook perk or something like that, or a token perk or something that has to be associated with this to give it a very strong negative, because it has a strong positive. So you can go either way. You can nerf it and keep it the same and just have it be a constant effect by adding some negatives to it to balance it out, or you can add a cooldown and buff the perk to where it's usable anytime a survivor tries to repair a particular generator. This would combo well with the Scourge Generator perk that somebody has originally wrote out. This sounds more like it. Whenever a Scourge Generator is repaired to 70%, survivors suffer from an action speed penalty. There would be 2 Scourge Generators in the particular game, and any survivor that does it, if it is the same survivor, they're going to get hit with an 18% action speed penalty, which ain't bad. It's 1 survivor. Any survivors that are gang banging a generator, they're all going to be affected by that Scourge Generator. You would need to add the clause that Scourge Generator, survivors cannot see that the generator is scourged or anything like that, based off the balance I did for the other thing. But this particular perk right here successfully demonstrates what adding Scourge Generators into the particular game would be. So, if you wanted to do a Scourge Generator perk, that would be the perk you would want to open up Scourge Generators with. Again, it's going to need a little bit of balancing and things like that, or it would be perfectly fine on a Scourge Generator. But I mean, that would have to be public test beta, tested, things like that to get a true balance or a true sense of balance, gameplay wise. It's a shame that it's 2 different concepts this is part of, and it would be scumbaggish of me to say, hey, this guy, has a perk that you can put as a starter for your Scourge Generators, like, no. They would have to get in contact with each other, he'd have to get permission to take his ID, etc., etc. At least do it the correct way. Survivors may use a flashlight to see until blessed is cleaned or blessed. Up test. This obviously is not going to work. You literally just hit all 4 survivors with a basic attack, and then you would just sit in front of the hex totem so they couldn't deactivate it. After you hit all 4 and chilled in front of the hex totem, the survivor vision would just get darker and darker and darker and darker and darker. Once it hits maximum darkness, they're not going to be able to see much. They'll be able to see any type of lighting that's in, the particular map. And if it's a darker map, they're even more screwed. If it's like the artist's map that's all bright and things like that, it's not going to be as bad. But they're not going to be able to see all of the landmarks. So you have to balance it that way too. Now, making a survivor screen slightly darker is completely fine, but the fact that you keep trying to scale and scale and scale and scale and scale is what makes this perk bad. You can affect their FOV, you can affect, the screen, the filters that go over the screen. You can make it slightly brighter, You can make it slightly darker, and then you could make their FOV, a little bit closer to them so they can't see as far around corners. You can do a whole bunch of different things with this particular hex. Don't recommend having an effect that triggers over and over and over and over. There aren't any hexes in the game that continue to trigger worse and worse and worse and worse over time. You generally have to do something. And your basic trigger on this particular thing is just a basic attack on a survivor. It's not even a hard trigger. It would be different if you had to do some super bad ass word just ridiculous thing to get this ability on a survivor. Like you had to hook them on all four scourge. Well, that's impossible. You'd have to, I don't know, 360 no scope them across the map with a hatchet throw or something just ridiculous, something absurd to get this perk on. It's way too OP. And there's no end to it. It literally is just going to get darker and darker and darker. So I'm going to go slap all four survivors. I'm going to sit in front of my perk till their screen goes completely dark and they can't see anything at all. And then I'm just going to go out and hook them and call it a day. You also need to add a clause, especially on a perk this strong, that, hey, if survivor gets hit again, injured again, their darkness resets or goes away or something like that. Or make it to where it only affects healthy survivors. So you'll have healthy survivors running around blind and unable to work on generators. But if you hit them, their vision comes back due to adrenaline or something like that. And then they're able to see what's going on. That would be forcing the survivors to stay in an injured state or to put up a health state and lose vision. You would have to set a lower limit so the screen doesn't go completely black and the survivor gets stuck like under the Plague's map in the catacombs or under, Freddy's map in the school and things like that. Or Gideon Meat Plant got completely stuck underneath, unable to find the stairs. That would be a nightmare. So there needs to be clauses added to this particular perk, Obtus. Get idea? Definitely not implemented correctly here. Needs more. And there, that's not bad putting it down like that, but afterwards you need to include more information, follow-up information about traps. Follow-up information about all of these need to be included down below to explain things more clearly. Bloody Play. When carrying a survivor, Bloody Play activates. Survivors suffer from the hindered status effect for 20 seconds. 1. How hindered are they? Hindered just means they're slowed. There is no default to slow. Hindered literally just means slow. So survivors suffer from the slow status effect for 20 seconds. If you don't say anything, I'm going to assume that it's a 0.0001 or 1%. Let's just say a 1% hindered for 20 seconds. It's useless. It doesn't do anything as it sits. It just says they're slow. That can be 0.0000, 1 trillionth of a percent. That can be a trillion% slow. That could be anything. This needs to be further defined. 20 seconds is ridiculous because it should take you less than 10 seconds to hook a survivor. You have, of course, 16 seconds to hook a fool or to hook a survivor, but it shouldn't take you any more than 10 seconds to hook a survivor at any given point in time, unless you have other things to do or you're just in that unfortunate place to where you're not near any hooks or you have to go around objects. But hitting them out in an open field and hooking them shouldn't take any more than 10 seconds. You definitely don't need 20 seconds, even with iron grip and agitation and all of that in a backpack build. You would be way too OP because you would be able to catch and down any survivor that you see. Running the mad grit, the agitation, iron grasp. That's 17.9 seconds of carry time, and they have 20 seconds of being slow. So you can easily catch another survivor and hit and or down them, and then continue on with that 4-second additive timer to either re-pursue them and down them if you hit them early or to get to a hook. So bloody prey hindering all other survivors makes no sense, and hindering the survivor that's on top of you or that you're carrying makes no sense. Because then what's the point of the stun? Um, focus, generator explosion, 9 lives, traps, devious information, auras of everything near killer. Critical fish. Oh, critical fish. Let's see how demeaning you're going to be to somebody today. 9 lives is hilariously situational, and devious information is just a middle finger to already one of the worst killers in the game, Trapper. Not a fan of these two. You managed to insult behavior, saying that the Trapper is one of the worst healers in the game. You also insulted the original op. This guy is somebody nobody ever wants to talk to. He's that guy. It would be doing the community a favor if they just removed his ability to comment on particular posts. All he does is come out, talk crap to all the other different creators, and then he goes about his life and he makes shittier and worse creations himself. This guy is the scummest of all scumbags. And me personally, I would love to see him gone. He has no constructive criticism or anything like that he adds in. He just comes in, talks shit, insults people, goes out. Never says you're doing a good job, never says what he likes about the concept, never provides anything constructive. Just, oh, no, your content sucks. This, that, and that is this, that, and that. See you later. Middle finger out the door. We don't need that here. People are coming up with ideas and posting the ideas that they're having, and they are sending them, down the line for others to look at. You don't need one of the workers that are supposed to be reviewing your product to come through the door, insult you, slap you in your face with your own concept, and then rethrow it down the line. What's the max number of deadly traps? What's the range of the being? Why is this just the worst version of the trapper somehow? Why you gotta insult the guy? Punctilious is not explained as much as it should be, obviously. How long does it last? Does it affect all survivors? Or just the ones on that generator? Also, it's just the worst Tinker. I think it would stack well with Tinker, giving them a lot of time, and that might be its purposes. X Obtest is obnoxious for no reason. Hello? Hello? You're obnoxious for no reason. How hindered are survivors by bloody prey? What even is the point of bloody prey? Anniehere, the creator. Let's see if she manages to keep herself. My concepts are open to adjust, and all that is written above are basically a base idea for new characters' perks. This character is a mix between Demo and Nemesis. The guy's moving. I see Nemesis, but Demo? Interesting. I guess the holes that you dig. I got it. I thought his power could help him during the chase and locating survivors. I haven't written more details because I leave it open for change in opinions. I wish I could just quote that particular line, but I'm going to go here. You say, wrong button. I want to italicize it. And then I want to go here. You say X obtuse is obnoxious for no reason. I don't even need to add this actually. Hey. Oh, I have to go back to actually no, how do I get rid of this? Oh, paragraph writing. And here I'm thinking the same thing about you. I see you post after post. It's about time somebody called his ass out. Going to all kinds of different creators. Extremely rude. And practically insulting them while not even providing any constructive criticism. That's spelled wrong. Thank you. Positive slash constructive criticism. I'd personally be glad if applied what you say to other people to your own concepts. I've literally banned your concepts from my YouTube channel because they were so off the wall like you are daily. Here's my advice. Because now I'm about to start going in on jabroni here. The reason I'm writing this, by the way, if anybody's here, is due to the specific fact that every time I see critical fish going in on somebody about their concept and all of that, he literally just insults them. 9 Lives is hilariously situational. Do you have to add hilariously situational? Devious Energy is just a middle finger to already one of the worst killers in the game. You know, I'm live streaming. I jest about things and things like that. This isn't joking about anything. This is literally you being on a high stool and speaking down to this particular creator. Not a fan of these two. What's the maximum number of deadly traps? You know, good, informative, all that, but you don't go in any type of detail about it. What's the range of the being? Again, you're just asking questions. You're not going into any type of detail about the being. Is the being good? Is it bad? Is it sad? Should she incorporate it? Should she not incorporate it? Why is this the worst version of Trapper somehow? Why again do you have to insult her? Your first 2 lines, you insulted her 3 times for no reason. I hope you don't have a job to where you talk to people, and I hope you're not a boss or a manager of anything, because your employees absolutely hate you if you talk to them like this. Again, might just be a kid that's on a power trip online knowing that people can't slap the fuck out of them when they have this type of talking down to attitude, things like this. Another keyboard gangster. And I'll tell you one thing, buddy, that's not going to fly in real life unless you have some money to back you and you're paying their paychecks. And eventually, that's not even going to save you. So if you're a kid, I suggest you start now and learning how to actually talk to people before you get that rude awakening and somebody puts you in your place. Because not everybody's just going to sit there and let you come in with that attitude and then say things. And anything that you are rude to them and you talk to them about, they're going to be closed-minded about. You came to me with this attitude and all that, as soon as I seen even the first little bit of the sentence, I'd have just banned you and sent you packing and waited for any type of constructive criticism at all. You ain't got to be a dick to let somebody know about their particular projects. Now, there are some people that I've been a dick to, but that's because they've been lazy on their concepts. Their concepts are literally 3 sentences asking the community to essentially do the work for them. I was like, then why post a concept and say it's a chapter idea and all of this if you want the community to do the work for you? Laziness. It was a shitty little thing that they did. They obviously didn't put any time to it, which they stated in the particular thing at the end that they didn't want to put any time into their particular concept. So I was like, so why should anybody else? That's the only time that I've been, well, there's other times I've been rude, but they've been warranted. I'm rude when it's warranted. Or when I'm tilted because everybody wants to add a goddamn mini Mori to their concepts. So here's my advice. For every good thing, or for every thing that you talk about, go into further detail saying whether that particular I don't want to say concept. I'll say a particular addition to their concept is good by base or not. Provide any kind of constructive criticism without the Starkey remarks. Holy shit, I can't spell. Remarks and comments with them. And get off your... It's not even going to call it a high chair, because I think he's a kid. I'm going to say, get off your high stool and learn the basics of respect between creators. I've gained respect with creators by showing them that, and have built myself up slowly month or so. And I have. I've shown respect towards particular creators, and I've gotten emails and all kinds of other things of people wanting to update their concept, things like that. They've sent me rough drafts to have me go over them before they posted them. And, I'm like, this is the best I can do. I'll give you your own video, or we can talk in Discord, or we can do whatever it is we need to do to get your concept, looking better, or just have a second pair of eyes on it to see if you missed anything. I have people, not daily, but almost daily, saying thanks for the help, Q, and all of this other things, things like that. I'm getting respect as a reviewer on the Dead by Daylight forum. And most people that, I share the stream and things that I'm going over, or I share a general idea, I've been like, holy shit, you're a genius. Let's collaborate on a killer or some things like that. Obviously, I'm not going to do any type of collaboration because I generally don't have the time to do the reviews, keep up any type of side series or anything like that. But I may in the future jump on board with another person as they're doing their concept and giving them ideas to see if we can push something amazing out. Maybe getting a board of people that do reviews of Dead by Daylight in general. And we can just have this gang bang, maybe get some higher level content creators in that have, subs and all of that. So it actually gets pushed out publicly. Maybe Behavior will see it. Maybe we'll become some sort of informational board where all of us just get together and we do reviews over things. It ain't have to stop with Dead by Daylight, it can be other things. You never know. But as of now, like any other business or any other average Joe, we take our time to build up on things. And if you're building up on toxicity, like Critical Fish here, you know, you get what you receive. You're going to get an overwhelming toxicity. Whenever he opens his mouth, people are going to be like, oh, it's just this guy. Next. Or he's going to end up getting banned from every single person's concept from going too far and running his mouth. And he's not going to be able to view anything. And anybody new posting, he's probably either going to chase away or they're going to immediately ban him. And at the rate he's going now, I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm gonna keep it straight arrow, like he is. I would love to see Critical Fish gone. Like I said, I'm not doing any more reviews over his posts, which he posts a lot of nowadays. They're all incomplete, need to go back into, and they all need to be edited, they all need to be rebalanced, they all need a lot of work. But he keeps pushing things out that are incomplete over and over and over and over and over. So none of them are ever going to be complete. I'm not going to help him out. I'm not going to review anything that he has. I'm just going to let his content is stand on its own. It's either going to sink or swim on its own. That's up to him. But I guarantee you, him being rude to a lot of people, if it goes too far, they're all just going to come and then talk crap to him and any concept that he puts in. And he's never going to get any constructive types of criticism. Generally, I try not to let myself waver, but I keep seeing Critical Fish pop up over and over and over and over again and just straight up insult people for no reason. Absolutely, positively no reason. And it's like, what the heck, dude? Who in this particular creation forums got under your skin that much that you're tilted for people that don't even know you? Like some dickhead's just coming into my creation, yelling at me, getting out all his frustrations for the day, and then going to the next post to yell. Need to provide details. Say long story short, don't just point out things you see wrong. Try and explain. Well, don't just point out things you see wrong and add an insult in. which is due to insecurity. I'm going to flip to a psychological thing, and I'm going to tell you exactly why he's insulting people and things like that. He thinks he needs to be this alpha keyboard gangster management style, on top of people as he's telling somebody about their work and what's wrong with it. He is assuming a persona online to try and say what he needs to say. He's not confident completely in what he's saying, and he doesn't want any type of negative backlash, which psychologically wise is why he's throwing in these statements. Hilariously situational, worst killers in the game, everything that's being every sentence wrote. You can see where his confidence starts wavering. Worst version of the trapper somehow. As you can see, it's just the worst tinker, obnoxious for no reason. What's even the point of bloody prey? And you can see he's developed this habit of any time he's not feeling confident in what he's saying and where he's not staying baseline, you can see that it slips into I'm going to add an insult in there at the end of it to make sure it goes through. I don't know if you're bullied in real life, you got a boss that's always on your butt or something like that. That's not the proper way to talk to somebody. If you accept being talked to somebody that way or talked to that way, that's on you. Regular people don't deserve this. You need to adjust the way you talk to people. You need to take some communication classes. And how do I know he has, like I said, how do I know that he has issues with his confidence? Again, he starts off with a joke because he really doesn't have a strong intro or anything like that. He doesn't know what to say. He's not confident on his intro. He starts off 9 lives is situational, or hilariously situational. He starts off insulting somebody. That's a red flag, psychologically wise. He starts going through with regular information. It's still the beginning, so he has to throw something else in. His confidence is waning as he's trying to say something, and he insults worst killer in the world. Trapper, not a fan of those two. So from beginning to end of this sentence, it's him trying to get his confidence up and trying to say something. Then he starts again. Deep breath. What's the max number of deadly traps? What's the range of the beings? He starts giving 2 things that he could go into, the things about the deadly trap, give some positive reinforcement. I like the idea of deadly traps, but what's the max number of them? What's the range of the particular being, But he didn't even talk about this. This is, a different concept or one of the crux of the killer. I like the idea of the range being, however, so and so and so and so. I generally run through everything roughly, then at the end, I go back through and I add in the positive things about it to kind of smooth it over, When you have a surface that isn't complete, you have to rough the surface up with sandpaper, and I go everything roughly, and then I go back through with a sander to smooth things out. Then I go over with a finer grit, and then I add the polish on top. So I may start off like he's doing, but he never goes back anywhere during this particular comment and says, hey, I like the concept in general, or, the concept itself needs to be reworked. It's weak, things like that. There's no ending statement. There's no positivity in any of this. What I get from this is that he hates everything in this particular concept, doesn't like anything, and he wished this person would just throw their concept in the trash. This guy's just that a-hole that comes in, says your crap's trash, slaps your papers into the ground, and then walks away. That's what he's doing here. And I'm not doing it because it's a female. Before anybody tries to go there, I could care less who the creator is, male or female wise. I don't recognize the name for her, even though she has 900 posts, which is great. It means it's not somebody's things that I review, all the time, and I already know the things or the habits that they generally already have. It's good seeing new people. Cool. We like that. But after going over everything that you've seen was wrong, what did you like about the concept? Where's the constructive criticism? Where and what needs to be changed? Here, you came in, you made a joke, you said a bunch of things, and then you added insults to the end. Again, you started out unconfident in your very first sentence and you insulted them. You started off asking questions, but you didn't know anything else what to say after this, so you ended up adding an insult because you couldn't think of anything else to say and your confidence was waning. This is not explained as much as it should be. Okay. How long does it last? Okay. Does it affect all survivors? See? You're starting. You're starting something off. You're starting something off, or is it just the ones that affect the generator? Okay. And then you get to the end of your thought process and you immediately add in it's just the worst tinkerer at the end of it. Why couldn't you just keep this thought going? Saying that it's a good perk, however, you see these, couple of issues that might need to be addressed. It needs to be explained, things like that, going into detail. Words on a forum, people can take them anyway, generally. This guy might not even think he's being a dick, or might not even, he knows he's being a dick. I mean, from the first line, he knows he's being a dick. You can't even interpret this as him not being a dick because it's insult after insult after insult after insult after insult after insult and after insult. He knows he's being a dick. And this is 2020 to 2021. Everybody thinks that being a dick is the new thing, and they treat people with disrespect and things like that, and they wonder why people are dying over stupid things and everything else, and people are disappearing and things like that. If somebody's talking to you and you pull the old who asked quip out in front of them trying to be, fancy and all of that, and you say that to the wrong person, they're gonna get you. You need to realize who you can joke with and who you can't joke with. Some people take that serious, and some people take that really serious, and they will get you. You need to learn this here, son. You need to learn this. She even goes back and explains after what you stated. She goes back through and tries to explain to you what her concept is, what she was envisioning, and all of that. But you're so stuck up, you didn't even go back to even look at her particular post. You didn't reply back to her. You didn't say anything to her. You didn't give her any more constructive criticism. You didn't say, any type of understanding. And this is what I hate about you, critical fish. You literally talk shit to somebody. They reply back because you're talking shit saying hey, because they're serious about the concept. And then you ghost them. This is why, long story short, don't just point out things you see wrong and add an insult in. Try and explain things fully. Fully and civilized. Is it ZED? Cool. And civilized. So people don't. Actually, nah. Long story short, don't just point out things you see wrong. Criticism and I was going to say favoritism. That's not the word I'm looking for. What's it called when you praise somebody? I don't praise people that often. So, criticism and what is the opposite of criticism? Not appreciation. That works. Now, what is the opposite of criticism? My brain's not working right now, probably because I ain't been woke that long. Opposite of criticism. Flattery. Flattery. Deference, esteem, estimation, flattery, recognition. That's the word I'm looking for. Recognition. The exact word. Long story short, don't just point out things you see. Wrong. Criticism and recognition are two of the things you need to have in order to become, well, and respect. Criticism, recognition. I have to add in respect. Criticism, recognition, and respect are some, some, are some, are some of the things you need in order to become a successful reviewer. And I've been a reviewer for years now. I ain't just start on Dead by Daylight randomly and just be like, oh yeah, well I think I want to do that. No. I've been a reviewer for years. I've reviewed mainstream products. I've reviewed mainstream video games. I've reviewed mainstream websites. I've reviewed things like, creation reviews, different products. Some, at least a couple, have been from different countries. They just wanted to see how, Americans would react to a general idea of something. I've reviewed a lot of things. From something simple as, a website that somebody goes to, like I said, AAA games, new programmings for different websites, things like that. I've reviewed a lot of things. Like I said, I think I'm up to 4.2 out of 5-star viewer. Only reason I'm not a 5-star, no, I'm 4.5 out of 5-star. I went up to 4.5. The only reason I'm not a 5-star reviewer is because I'm not gonna kiss the ass of the people I'm reviewing. The 5-star reviewers are the ones that are like, oh yeah, your product's amazing. Let me kiss your feet, Oh, I really love you, your product's amazing and all this other stuff. And then they, oh, but there's one little glitch here, but it's fine, it'll be patched out and all that. Like, no. I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna respectfully talk to them. I'm going to keep that specific, professional demeanor. I'm going to send things through in an easy to understand order, things like that. And I'm going to get my point across. I'm 4.5 because I'm only required to do a 10 to 15 minute. I generally give them a 30 to a 1 hour review. I'll split up perfectly, and all informative things like that. That points out a lot more than what they are generally going for. And they appreciate it. They call me back for more because they know they're getting more review for what they're paying for. That's why I earned my way up through the years to the 4.5, but I'm not going to get that extra 0.5 because I'm not going to brown nose or kiss butt to get that 0.5. And that's what they're expecting when they talk to most reviewers, is somebody that's going to always agree with them and then point out the major things. I point out everything as I sweep through. Dead by Daylight creation reviews. I'm aware that nobody here is a professional creator, so I hold them to a different standard. I go through briskly to let you know what's wrong, all of that as I'm going through the particular concept, as we're reading through. I go back in, point out what's wrong, and then I give an overview of the entire concept, saying whether or not I like it or not, or whether the content should be erased and redone, whether it's getting up in there, it's getting up in the ranks and could become something great, or if it's just not feasible due to contracts and things like that. I try to include as much detail as possible, on concepts that allow me to. But yeah, long story short, don't just point out the things you see wrong. Criticism, recognition, and respect are some of the things you need to have in order to become a successful and well respected viewer. Respected reviewer. I'm gonna put a P.S. If you give advice and the creator says something back to you, if you give advice and the creator takes the time to engage you in conversation and replies back to you, have the respect to reply back. Don't just ghost them and waste both of your time. And that's about when I say. Also, I have to do a quick edit. I apologize to the original poster, but this guy needs to be spoken to because he's been disrespecting creators on every post he goes to. And no, I'm not just speaking out of my ass when it comes to the disrespectfulness and things like that. I'm not the only one that doesn't particularly like how Critical Fish does things. I'm not gonna list anybody's names or anything like that, but I have talked with other creators and all of that, and we all kind of think he's an asshole. So I'm gonna be the guy. I'm not gonna come out there and I'm not gonna beg with him to be nice or anything like that. I'm just gonna straight up tell him, like I just did. You're being an absolute asshole. You're being an absolute dick. Change your ways. Now, let's go right back into this. Now, besides, the things of being kind of hard to understand or out of order, I didn't say hard to understand, out of order and needing to be a little bit done there, the obvious small things. This concept, and even despite him being an a-hole, he did cover some of the things that I incorporated, but he never provided any type of feedback. He said a whole bunch of different things, but he never gave her any feedback. He essentially said, I hated your concept, here you go. And then he dipped. When she said something back, he didn't care enough to reply back. Now, we go back up to the first thing, the focus. I like the idea of another perk that comes off of healing another survivor that doesn't necessarily involve healing yourself. Like, you have you heal the survivor on a second win. When you get unhooked, you get broken, but you immediately heal. The thing is, perks like focus and things like that gives you a lot of leniency if you're altruistic. So it'll give you benefits for actually going for unhooks and things like that. I think focus is a little bit weaker because it just prevents the generator explosion. Like I said, you have technician, and now you have the new perk that the new survivor has that came out with the artist, that you can just slide mistakes like that off to the side. His perk extends to all skill checks, so healing skill checks, things like that, it saves. Whereas Thingman's Technician keeps the generator from exploding, but you lose additional progress. So it's kind of balanced there and there. I would love for you to keep the beginning thing after healing 2 survivors or 4, 3, and 2 survivors and change focus ever so slightly into a different direction. Instead of focusing on preventing generator explosions, do another effect. And I think if you took a little bit of time here, you could actually come up with an amazing idea, because you do have that creative instinct inside of you, unlike most people. 9 lives. Again, most things are made parkour wise to just make up for lost time that you're doing particular actions. And it's also, again, directly made to counter trapper and or your killer. It's not wrong to have perks that, counter your particular killer, but you also have to think that you're not going to know what particular killer you're going up against. And if you run a perk like this and you end up going after a spirit or going up against a spirit or a legion or something that doesn't run traps, you're going to have a dead perk. So you would want to either, well, I would say just rework the perk altogether. Like, just get rid of it and then come up with another perk to put in its spot. But if you do want to run this particular concept, you should make it to where you get a sprint burst that can be activated on every single map versus every single killer. Or you can give it a decent passive to, while you're not messing with traps and all of that, you have a decent passive that you can run while it's not activated. So at least you have a fail safe if you're not going up against a killer that uses traps or anything. Also, like I mentioned before, I would use equipment and or whatever the other term it was. It's been so long, I forgot what the other term I used, which was even better than equipment. I think it was abilities or powers. After freeing yourself from a power or an ability or something like that, you get a boost. I personally don't think the game needs any more sprint bursty style perks, because I mean, you can essentially get a sprint burst in every single situation. But hey, to each their own. But I mean, oh yeah, every killer and every survivor generally has a meh perk. So, you know, I think it's going to be this one is going to be the meh perk. This one can be made into something that would rival even the meta perks based off healing. I have very high hopes for focus. I love the start of it. This one, I'll come back to 9 lives. Devious information is kind of a meh perk. It does need to state how long you have to stay in the killer's tear radius, and the longer you stay in the killer's tear radius, could maybe have more effects added in. Maybe, depending on what effects you choose, or more buffs, more things like that. Because I mean, only being able to see totems and traps within 16 meters of the particular killer for 8 seconds isn't necessarily that good. And generally, if you're in, like I said, the killer's tear radius, the only acceptable time for that to happen is if you're sneaking around, trying to get your buddy off the hook, and the killer, is nearby checking. Or the killers just come to your generator and they're popping it, or you've just escaped a chase. There's really only the three different ways you should ever be in the killer's tear radius and not specifically working on generators. So this becomes very situational where you can actually use this set perk. And if you're in the area working on a generator or you're running around doing things like that, totem wise, there's a perk for that. And then you're just adding in traps or enemy equipment or anything like that, or enemies' powers, or, residual effect of enemy or anything like that. You could extend this to just go beyond traps to where it lets you see Hag's traps if she puts them down. It lets you see Pyramid Head's trails. It lets you see, everything. Lockers that are highlighted with Huntress's hatchets or the trickster's throwing knives. It'll show those. I mean, you can get a lot more things added in if you do want to keep this. Or you can buff this to do, more things the longer that you're in the killer's tear radius. There's a lot of ways you can go with devious information. As it sits now, it's kind of meh. It's not good, it's not bad, it's kind of centerline perk. I don't see anybody running it as a meta perk or any one of their builds, especially with clairvoyance and things like that also being able to be active. And clairvoyance gives you huge readings of everything. So, I mean, this can honestly use a little buff or a little bit of changing. I do like that you have to be within killer's tear radius to get the particular activation. I like the beginning. It's just the ending of both of these could be bumped up to make this worthwhile. And then this, I would get away from the sprint burst mechanics, because if you actually look at the Dead by Daylight perks, there are a lot of perks that give you a sprint burst or a burst of speed or a haste status effect afterwards. So 9 lives, you know, eh, maybe not. I don't really have much more to say over that. I mean, 9 lives could be another, endurance perk. 9 lives, you can take more hits. I don't know. It could give you an activation on a failed activation of a perk. Like, for example, if you dead hard and the killer downs you while you're dead harding, it could prevent an activate, or it could force an activation of dead hard. That too, if the survivor's injured and they don't get their dead hard out properly, if you're within a particular range of them, it could automatically dead hard or use their perk for them to give them an extra hit. And you can do something to get tokens for this particular perk, to use up tokens to do that, possibly. I don't know. Or you could go the complete opposite, so you're not forcing somebody to be exhausted. You can use a token to prevent a survivor from going down, or use a token to get them up faster or something like that. And you can go the opposite way. So you're not forcing them to use their exhaustion perk, because maybe they have a plan of going down. And once their friend flashlights or something for them, they can use their dead hard to get that extra distance. So instead of forcing the exhaustion effect, or, you can have totems to reduce the exhaustion effect on other survivors near you by X amount of time per token. Or anything like that. Just giving more survivors, more opportunities to do things. The only thing that you can't do is do what like Vigil does and reduces status effect timers by, I think it's like 30% or something like that. So keep in mind that there are perks that already do that. You just got to kind of dance around that fine line to incorporate something into a whole. But that is that. And I'm going to leave this concept here for now. I've also used an excess of time. We're over 2 hours now because of me taking the time to say, hey, guy, you need to slow your roll and shut your mouth. The Rock, by the way. Because I posted something in her particular concept, I'm going to go ahead and include her particular details in here just to kind of give her credit where credit is due. Anytime that I post in anybody's particular messages, or if I provide any type of information, I want them able to find said video. I also want to set up a failsafe just in case he tries to hit me back with, well, I don't see you providing any positive, or I don't see you providing any type of feedback for her. You know, what are you doing? At least I'm doing something. And I can say, well, if she searched for a killer concept and all of that, well, killer and survivor concept, she could easily find what she's looking for. And I can just post my stream link. Bada bing, bada boom, it's there. All of this is recorded as I went over everything. Good. His name was Egor something, Oldenburg. Egor Oldenburg and Natasha Pavlov. Only reason I remember Pavlov's name is from, what was the name of that game? It was the black and white story where you had to get food and wood and it got cold. It was a story 2G game where you break into other people's places or go scavenging for food. And that was the whole game. I don't remember. But that is the only reason I remember that particular thing. Then we take the name of Egor Oldenburg, because I always highlight killer over survivor, because it is Dead by Daylight. It's a horror game, so obviously. Creation forums in the description. Please go have a look and provide feedback. Egor Oldenburg, submitted by Anniehere. That's the link for it. My email, all the other stuff, the shout out to Galanonim, and all of that. So if she does want to pop in and hear what I have to say in detail, she has the option to. This is also a fail-safe if Critical Fish starts thinking critically and he's like, oh, well, all you did was sit there and talk crap about me and you never provided any type of feedback to her and all this other stuff. I said that you have good points here and there. You just don't go into set points deeply. You just say whatever's on your mind and then you end everything you say with an insult. Every single sentence that you type is ended with an insult here. Note the similarities between her character and the trapper. Cool. But don't insult her while you're doing it, brother. She don't deserve that. She's never done anything wrong to you. Again, I'm going to let this sit. She can delete my post off and say whatever. I've overstepped my bounds. I don't particularly care. Or might come in and delete it. I don't care. The thing is, because I quoted what he said, everything that's been said and things like that, he's going to get an email, which we know that he doesn't check, or he would have came back here and said something to her. But we know he don't check his emails and all of that, and I'm probably going to run into another post that he puts up future-wise. So there's that. And again, critical fish. Critical fish. Critical fish. I understand you want to be critical fish. I understand you want to be active in the community, but you should definitely finish one concept and polish it up before you move on to the next concept. Critical fish. And these are the ones that are the most recent posts. Critical fish, critical fish. On the other one, critical fish, 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 over and over and over and over. He goes in and he keeps the same insultive demeanor unless he actually likes the concept. He keeps the same demeanor. You're not being critical, you're being an asshole. Critical is seeing things for what it is, pulling it apart, saying for what it is, or going over what it is. You talk about the goods of the situation critically. You talk about the bad or the mediums of the situation critically. You talk about the bads of the situation critically. And that band of wrapping everything together is what gives you your critical thinking and your critical everything else. Being critical is not going in, insulting people, and pointing out all the bad things that are wrong with them. You're not understanding the terminology of critical thinking. Unfortunately, this person probably never will. And he's already left the trail. People are reading everything that he's posting. He's saying, you're losing reputation in the community being a dickhead. Stop. This is why I do everything live. So as I'm going over everything, I can, one, hear myself and what I'm saying and whether I'm being a dick to anybody. Then at the end, I tried to, well, during and at the end, I try to smooth everything else over. For critical fish wise, like I said, his projects and everything that he's done has been banned off of my particular channel. I will not be doing any other further Killer or Survivor views, even if they have 1 million views and everybody's like, you gotta see this. It's amazing. He's the genius of his time. I will not be coming back to Critical Fish's things. His concepts, he places so many and so quickly that they aren't flushed out. They aren't any type of detail. Basically, all the things that he is harping over, and he does the same thing, which makes him the ultimate hypocrite. Anne's concept was decent. Critical Fishes is just not there, non existent. It's not flushed out, and all of that. And the fact that he went to somebody else's concept and pointed those things out means that he knows exactly what he's doing when he's creating these concepts. And he knows that he's not providing any of this information that he needs to have, and that he's just letting it sit out there in the open. And I don't care if Critical Fish has 1 million followers or anything like that on YouTube. And they can come in and I can get 1 million dislikes on a video. Well, the dislike button's disappearing. Still have mine, but dislike button's disappearing anyway, so it'd only just be views and comments for me, and any type of comment that's offensive or death threaty or anything like that is just gonna get their YouTube account banned. And if he's the one that sent the entire crowd after me, it's easy to just say, hey, YouTube, this guy's doing bad things, lock him up, call my lawyer, and then say, hey, this guy's cyberbullying me. Hey, get the boys, we're suing him. It's very, very easy to stop heavily influential people because they leave a paper trail because they're cocky. I mean, he doesn't have an audience or anything like that. Let me restate that. But they have an audience and they record everything that they're doing and all of that, and they're sending people, on messages and Twitters, and they're posting Twitters and statuses saying that this person's that and things like that. And they leave a paper trail that the government or anybody else can just go and request the transcripts between anybody they've had a communications with, seeing that they're instigating things, and then bam, court case is won. Doesn't matter what kind of lawyer you have, if you leave obvious evidence out in the public view to where they can use it against you, they're going to. Now, there are some dang good people out there, but I mean, you can either pay me $150,000 for cyberbullying me and go on your way, or you can play that lawyer and upwards of $500,000 to try to keep your cover safe and make it seem like you weren't the bad guy in the situation. But I mean, I'm still going to release the transcripts and everything that's a public record. I'm still going to release them to the people and let them think, whatever they want to think. I'm not going to influence anything. I'm not even going to talk about it. I'm just going to release everything that's been said in video and let the community themselves interpret everything on their own. That way, I'm not going to get in trouble for it. I'm not bandwagoning anything. I'm just providing the base information. And if people want to riot and boycott them or cyberbully them, that's on them. They did it to themselves. I make sure everything that I say won't be turned around and ended up into cyberbullying, especially on stream, because I don't want to end up in that type of situation. But either way, I'm pretty much done for the day. If anybody's stopping by, I appreciate you stopping by, looking at what I have to offer, etc., etc. I know I put up the discuss random topic screen a little bit late. I forgot. But I'll try to get better at it in the future. It's been 2 hours. The Dead by Daylight portion is over. Thank you for stopping by. Supplement your lifestyle. I would like to go forward and move on to Splinter Cell Blacklist, which I started at the beginning of the video. I talked about it a little bit. I'm going to go in more depth. Splinter Cell Blacklist, I'm going to do one mission a day. If anybody owns the game and wants to do any type of co-op missions, because I've never done them, we can run a couple of those too, just to see how it's going to go. I mean, if you're going to troll or anything like that, I've asked that you please don't waste my time. Because, I mean, I don't even have a huge audience, and the only person you're really getting is me. And if it suits your fancy, fine, but it doesn't make sense. But I don't mind, playing with the viewers in Rocket League and Dead by Daylight and the walkthroughs and things that I'm playing with. I don't mind playing with the viewers. But if viewers start trolling and doing, dumb things, I'm gonna have to let you go. That's also gonna result in a block of my friends list and possibly even ban from stream depending on what you're doing. I mean, I have a sense of humor, and me and Macho troll each other all the time, so I can put up with a little bit of a sense of humor. But if you're like obviously sabotaging, we're trying to build a castle, and next thing you know, the foundations are deleted and the entire castle falls over and breaks after 4 hours of work, that's malicious. That's not even trolling anymore. That's literally malicious act, and you will be terminated from game, friend list, every other connecting stream, and you'll be off of my channel forever. And you'll also go on to the blacklist. So even if I do unban you, and I'm like, oh, well, this guy, he's probably changed, and I unban you, you'll still be blacklisted, so you won't even be able to rejoin anything anyway. It'll be out of my hands at that point. People that get blacklisted, regardless if I'm feeling nice or not, you will never be able to come back. I designed and coded the blacklist itself. It goes through and it checks any other type of person. Like, for instance, if you say the N word or if you spell the N word out in a particular way, that it picks up. When I have it activated, of course. It will immediately add you to a blacklist that is held. I don't think I should say where it's held. I'm just going to say that it's held on a particular server. So nobody actually has access or can even try to hack into it if there are any hackers out there. But it's in a very secure location that is not on my computer. So, and it's all handled remotely. All I have to do is go to a particular place, activate it, and boom. Anything that I play on, all of my accounts, which is a bad idea, which is why I don't want to say where it's at. Any account that I have made is added to this particular blacklist. Epic account, Steam account, any type of online accounts, Facebook accounts, Twitter's accounts, every single account I make is added to this particular server. And if you are added to this blacklist server, you are immediately banned from everything. 110% everything. You will not be able to even get search results. Oh, I guess you can still get search results, but you'll not even be able to search my name and get on a post at anything that involves me. Not even Reddit, not even Discord. Even if you search for that and tried to join, you would be banned off everything that is connected to this essential blacklist. It's also called the black box because it contains every link of everything that I've ever went through, social media wise and whatnot. It's got all of that incorporated into this one program. Very cool. But yeah, you mess up bad enough, you will never have the option to see or talk to me again. And that's how I like it. Somebody goes too far, something, and says something that's irredeemable, says or does something that's irredeemable, and I need you gone, you're gone. The blacklist also takes IP and hardware and something else that I'm not going to explain because everybody knows IP. You can just do some VPN, swapping, swap to a different VPN. You can't just change your IP. It goes through the particular VPN, finds out who it goes through, and does a lot of things to get rid of that. It doesn't block the VPN, but trust me, any other IPs that you try to swap to, it's going to find you in particular, and it's going to reban you. And if you do manage to make it back, the first time you send a message, it's going to check back through and find you again and ban you. And then you have fluffers and spoofers and things like that. So the hardware and things like that, you're going to have to get a spoofer or a fluffer is what they call it to get the ban off of your hardware. But I mean, I have ways of banning people in a way that regardless of what kind of program that you're doing, you're going to stay banned. The only way to bypass this particular ban would be to literally stack dump all the programs and connections on your particular computer and go to like a friend's house or go to buy a brand new computer and then create your own separate identity, separate from anything else that's ever touched you. Anything else that's touched you, like the same IP can't be used. Same network can't be used, so you're gonna have to have like a mobile network or be at a friend's house or something like that. Or a VPN that's way far away that doesn't involve your particular IP address. Because when it comes down to it, something that all of you IP and VPNs and everything else that you go through, you only have one particular IP address. Every single thing in the world that connects to the internet has its own unique IP address. Now, every network assigns you another IP address. There's something called a private IP address, the 198 something something. That is a private IP address. Private wise means it's only to that specific network. So if I have 198.1.1 or something like that on my network, somebody else on a separate network can have that same IP and it'd be completely fine. It's separate from the World Wide Web. It's just only for the network, and every single network can have the same IP address for the same particular object. And as more things join the network, it just assigns it another private network number. And that's how private networks work. So the network can identify every single device as being separate, but every single object in the world only has one particular IP address. Can you change that one particular IP address? In some cases, yes, you can, but it's a lot harder than just toggling in a VPN. I can tell you that much. You have to actually be knowledgeable about how to change your unique IP address. This is why people tell you do not let people get your IP address, because once they get it, your actual IP address, not your private IP address, the actual your device's IP address, you're boned. That is GG. You're at their mercy and they can do whatever they want to do with you. Trust me, I spent some time as an ethical hacker slash penetration tester. Trust me. If I get your unique IP address, you're at my mercy. I can connect directly into your device, and if it has any type of security, easily bypass your security, get through your firewalls, everything else you think that is protecting you, and I can set up shop. And I can use your computer to mine Bitcoin for me, slowing your computer down if you're just a dickhead. Or I can run a program that's ransomware to where you have to pay me, or I'm going to take control of your computer and you'll never use your computer again. And the thing is, it's not my computer. I can install this program anywhere I dang well please. I can be nice and install it in your Windows files to where, all you got to do is, delete everything on your computer and not just hard drive because it'll transfer over to another hard drive. So you'll just have to delete all of your drives and everything that's on your particular computer and re-download everything. Not bad, right? Thing is, if you have your sync data on and it re-downloads everything that you have, it's going to re-download the virus. As soon as you connect to internet, bam, it's going to re-download the virus again from an unknown source, and you're not going to know that it's happened. That's why people put viruses in your Windows folders. It's very hard to access Windows folders. If you don't even know how to do that, try go ahead and access some of your Windows folders and change things. The computer will lock you out, even though you're on your administrative account. There's special ways to get into Windows folders and change the permissions, so average Joe computer user can't go in and blow up their computer or do something else. So I can access the area that you can't access if you don't have the knowledge to. And the only thing you can do is get good and get smart and get educated. Or, on the other hand, delete every single thing you had on your computer. Spoof, completely wipe it. And that's what ransomware comes down to. Either you're going to pay me money, or I'm going to hold your computer ransom and I'm going to slowly start deleting things off the longer it takes you to pay me. And after that time limit goes down, I'm going to run a program that's going to wipe everything off and clean everything up. And you're going to be left with nothing but a base computer. I've ran into a ransomware before. I ran into ransomware on my phone before. When I was younger, I did what every other teenager does, and I went to dumb sites. I thought, oh, it's a cell phone, it doesn't mean anything. Next thing I know, I got this, your Android has a virus, pay so and so to remove it. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I took my battery out, I stuck my battery back in, I relaunched it. And as soon as I connected back to internet, about 5 minutes of internet use, it would pop back up and say the same thing over and over and over and over and over. I tried going through the files and all of that on my phone to see if I can fix it, and eventually I had two options: find an offline computer and risk that getting, infected. So it'd have to be an offline burner computer that I could then run, malware and everything else on to get rid of said virus, or just delete everything. I was a teenager. I wasn't that smart. I just deleted everything and restarted. Now, during that time that that particular ransomware was on my computer and that screen was up saying you have X amount of time to do this and that, there's no telling how much of my personal information and everything else that was downloaded back to an original server. When I was a teenager, I didn't have a bank account or anything like that, but I mean, pictures of girlfriends, contact information, things like that, the important things that you want to keep locked down, messages, history, things like that. All of those could have been downloaded into some creepy guy's, computer, and he can do whatever he wants with that particular information. You never know what's going to be done with your personal information. You really don't. That could have been sold. He could have been part of another website that just takes people's information in. He could have sold everything to other places for a quite a bit of money, because they would have pictures of me, what I look like whenever I took pictures that they could use to put on, driver's license, fake IDs, things like that. They have my height and everything else from conversations, and they could make a pretty good driver's license back then that has all of my information on it. It would fly because I do exist. And fake IDs and things like that, they have to come from somewhere. People don't just magically look online for a random person's picture and then put some names and things on it. I mean, some people, the idiots, do that. But back then, most people actually went off of, real life things. Nowadays, it's as simple as taking somebody's driver's license and then scanning it and getting the code off of it. You can just take their information, all of that, like that, apply that to a fake ID that, has the star and everything else over it. 'Cause most people don't actually look, they just look at the age, they don't see if the ID is actually real. But yeah, take that scanned barcode, put all of that information on the back of a fake ID, put in some general information of whatever that looks sort of close to the person that's, getting the ID, and then you hand it to them. And there you go. They have a fake ID slash driver's license slash whatever they want, and they pay, $150 for it. They go out, they can scan it wherever they're going. It'll get them in the clubs and other things like that. For those of you that don't know, when you scan a card, all you're doing is sending a particular, it's almost like an algorithm, but it's a sequence is what it's sending to the scanning device. The scanning device then takes that sequence, puts it all together, and then creates the information from that sequence. So if you take that sequence as it gets sent out, or you scan it into another computer, which is why there's things that can take money off your card using the chips and all of that at a distance, and things like that. That sequence that you can get from all of that, you can easily pull and then apply it to something else. Once it's applied to something else, somebody else has access to something of yours that they can use. I mean, look at our social security cards. Forget driver's license, social security cards are even easier. Especially the ones that are made, back in the 90s or earlier. Or if you get too early, you get those thick plaques that they used to give you. It's ridiculous. But actual card wise, if you're born in the 90s and you take anybody's social security card, I don't know about nowadays. Maybe they've updated, probably not. But it's literally just a card that states your information on it and your social security number. If I grab a fake ID from somebody, get a fake ID made, and I get their social security number, again, if you're getting all of the information from a cell phone, and they're a little bit older and not a teenager, or they're a teenager, that does things online like job applications and things like that, you can easily pull a social security number from sites. Most sites are encrypted, but then again, if you're signing up for a job or doing anything on your phone that's been hacked and has a program on it, all of your button imprints, inputs. Wow, my mind's in the gutter. All of your button inputs are being recorded to a back program that's being downloaded when your phone generally isn't in use. Is when they wait. Cell phones become a lot more complicated when you're hacking into them because you don't want to spin up the processors because cell phones nowadays get hot. You can tell temperature wise that something's happening on your phone. And if somebody's phone's getting hot in their pocket, they're going to check their phone. And if they find out that, hey, my phone's randomly getting hot for no reason, some people say, well, oh, it's the lithium ion battery inside of, or the lithium battery inside of it. They get hot when they're going out. That's an acceptable excuse. You might be saved. Anybody's knowledgeable and they're like, no, my phone's never gotten this hot before, or the phone's brand new or something like that. This could then be the very first tip off that something's wrong with their phone. Not all hackers are smart, and not all hackers try to hide what they're doing. Some hackers will just send the information whenever they think the phone's inactive to speed purposes. The more stealthy you are, the slower you're going to go, and the more things you have to come up to make sure everything's perfect. If I can say, send me data, enter, when the phone's not active and you're gone to sleep for the night, and just go ahead and send things through super quickly, use all the processing power of your phone to get it to me as quickly as possible, then you're going to do that. Or if you want to brute force into a system and you have the time and they don't have that much security, you're going to do that. As opposed to keep the processor down to below like 2 to 5% and run it very slow and transmit a small amount of data at a time over, a 12 to 24 hour process where the phone user doesn't know what's going on. Different ways of doing things. I would rather get it all 5 minutes while I know they're in the shower not using their phone. And if they do notice it, they're just going to see a large stream of data that's going through. If they're smart and don't really panic, they'll just take the battery out of their phone and all of that, and the transmission will stop. Till next time. If they're not smart, they're going to panic and be like, what do I do? And they're going to go on the internet and they're going to do all kinds of searching and things like that. And it's going to be slow and laggy because the person that's downloading your data is hitting it as hard and as fast as they can. They're utilizing the phone. And once the data's gone, my friends, it's gone. But hackers don't just generally get what they want from a computer and then leave. They generally leave a back door, or they turn your computer into what I'm going to call a node, to keep it simple. A node is just another stepping stone that you can use for processing power or to hold and store information as part of the network. You now become part of that hacker's network, or a node in the network. If I'm wanting to, like, for example, it's the same as me using your particular computer as a VPN. So if I don't necessarily want to be traced, I can go through a VPN that's in, I'm going to keep in the United States. We're going to start up top. We're going to say Washington. I'm going to connect from, let's say I'm in Florida, and I'm going to connect to Washington, and then I'm going to connect to your computer in Oregon that's nearby. If you're running a VPN, then from Oregon, where you are, we're going to transfer all the way down to, I don't know, California. And then from California, you're going to be, I don't know, in Chicago or something, looking at whatever you're looking at and things like that. I'm going to take a portion of it, or I'm going to wait. If it's big, I'm going to wait to where you're not using your computer, and I'm going to use your Oregon connection through VPN to enhance my connection and hide it through California through that VPN. And then from California, I'm going to go and try to hack something. And the person that's tracing my connection is going to trace the connection all the way back to the VPN. They're going to trace that connection from VPN all the way back to you. Now, if they figure out that your computer is just a node, they can then track it all the way up to Washington. And then by that time, I'm going to know that they're trying to trace me, and I'm just going to end the connection and try again another day. If the person tracing back stops at your particular computer and they say, hey, this dickhead over here is trying to hack me, and they stop at your connection, they can ruin you, or the police might show up at your door even though you weren't doing anything bad. Which then the police are going to go through your computer, trace all your connections, see that your connection came from a VPN from Washington. And then from there, they're probably not going to be able to go any farther, because that's all they're going to see is that the connection from that VPN in Washington has ceased. Now, if they're quick about it, they can find out that the connection from the VPN in Washington now goes down to Florida. And they can try to track it all the way down, but they're not ever going to get a definite trace. So if it's government wise, they're not going to get a 100% trace, but now they know that, hey, this terrorist attack came from Florida. But hackers use multiple different hats. If I'm going to hack something federal, I'm going to have, 100 to 150 different connections through different computer systems. So as I get traced, I'm going to extend the amount of time, and each other person I'm going to have going through different VPNs, if capable, to extend that line. And as it keeps retracing me back and back and back and back, they're going to have to spend a significant amount of time to keep tracing this open connection. And back and back and back and back and back and back. And as long as I cut the line before it gets anywhere close to me, they'll never know where it's coming from. And that's the essence of hacking, or covering yourself when you're hacking. You want to use as much nodes, as I'm going to use is just a word, as possible to make sure things won't be traced back to you. Smart hacker knows how to wipe anybody else's computer, of the logs and everything else that the computer keeps as they're going in and going out, which makes it very difficult for police to track where a connection's coming from unless it's live. Once you know that that particular line's compromised, you generally don't want to go through that particular setup you have. So you'll switch your VPN over and you'll hook up to, I don't know, Wisconsin this time, and then you'll make another line to their computer. And then from their computer or another person's computer, you'll go off to a different area. And then you'll buffer your systems again, and sometime in the future, try another attack. Hacking, very dangerous, very illegal. If you're caught hacking, you're going to do some serious jail time. Even if you just hack just to hack, you're looking at a large amount of jail time and a large fine. And on top of just the hacking jail time, you're going to have a whole bunch of different crimes against you. Crimes that you necessarily didn't even commit are going to be against you. And God help you if you end up on a network that has a minor on it. Sometimes you just hack into a cell phone and it ends up being a random cell phone in the house. You're trying to get to this particular guy or this particular millionaire's cell phone. And as you're hacking through cell phones, and things like that, trying to find out which is which if they're not named or you don't know the type, you end up hacking onto, I don't know, his daughter's cell phone. The moment that you accidentally hack into that cell phone, you are worse than war criminals. You are worse than somebody with a dishonorable discharge, and you are foobarred. You might as well just jump off a bridge and call it a day if people are coming or are tracing you back to your location and you're unable to break that connection. You're done. You're going to be worse than a pedophile just for just hacking into a teenage daughter's phone, accidentally looking for the actual father to steal his information. If you are caught, it is beyond the end of your life. And trust me, they're going to leverage it in court to give you even worse. They're going to be like, oh man, you're watching her change, watching her take baths, all kinds of other things. He was on that shit 24/7. You're screwed. This is why when you are hacking, whether it's ethical or not, you need to triple check where you're going and make sure you're going to the right area. If you go into a trap that's set up specifically for hackers, you're also screwed. You're done. As easy as it is to hack into average Joe, you're not going to make money hacking into average Joe. Average Joe don't have a lot of money. Oh man, you hacked into his financial institutions. You have charge of the 20 grand that he has in his account. How are you going to get the money? You can't send it to a friend because it'll be traced back to you eventually, or the friend will give it back. You can't send it to an acquaintance because whenever you try to get said money, they're going to trace it back to you. So how are you supposed to take this 20 grand and get this money from the guy? If you have a partnership, I should say, with a particular business that's common, like let's say that person shops on Amazon a lot or something like that, and you have a contact through Amazon, you can then sack dump all the money and then well, you're gonna have to prevent the person from accessing anything and calling Amazon to get the money back. So that's not even gonna work either. So you would have to invest the money into some place to where they can't request their money back. It's gonna have to be a non-refundable type of thing. So rent wise, a lot of people use rent or paying landlords and things like that. A way to launder money. Some people buy cars and a whole bunch of other different things, like off Craigslist cars, things like that, to where you can't necessarily request a refund. And the people that they're giving the money to, they have contact with that they already, have met face to face and ironed out the details. If you randomly, always have a burner car that's worth like 10 grand. Somebody will pay you 20 grand for the car. You keep 10 grand, so it's a legal transaction. Make sure it's non-refundable. Make sure the car is not a burner car, so they don't request the money back from you. Even if they do, whatever, we still have 10 grand. You make the 10 grand, 10 out of that 20 grand look like a legal purchase. Send it through. The other 10 grand that you get from that particular person, you leave at X account or you leave at X address or something like that. Immediately, take the money out if you can, or transfer it to, I don't know, a Swiss account or an account that's overseas or something where money can't be requested back in another country. Completely get rid of the excess money you get from this scam. And make it someplace, way, way far away somewhere in like a small town over in Switzerland or something, or a small town over in Africa, or someplace that's not allied with the US, just a small place in a small bank over. And if you have to go through multiple people to get the money there, so be it. Once the money's there, the money's then going to have to be pulled from over there. Everybody gets their little hands on however much money it is, and then the portion that is left has to be illegally transported over to the United States. You're going to have to set up some sort of meeting place to grab said money. Then once you get the money that comes from over there that's been transported and changed into American didgeridoos, you're going to have to find a way to spend that money in a place to where nobody's ever going to be able to trace the actual dollars to. So Crazy Earl's house that has all of his life savings in a safe that he's had since he was younger. He doesn't trust banks. He's a good place to go to transfer all of that particular money over. So now he has potentially marked bills and things like that, and a large amount of money that he's been saving over the years locked up. You took all the money that he's already had and you've successfully laundered it. Take that money, out, and then you can openly start spending the money. However, you don't want to change your spending habits. If you go to the Gucci store and you buy a new car and a new TV and all of this money starts being spent out of nowhere, they can still trace the money back to you, even though it's not necessarily the same money. So keep that in mind. They can trace it back to everywhere that you've went and find, whatever they want to find if it's a significant amount of money. A couple of million, things like that. So then you can't change your spending habits. So now you have 20 extra grand, well, minus what everybody else took, in your bank that you can't just go out and openly spend all at once. Or you have a couple million in your bank. Well, not in your bank, but you have a couple million on hand that you can't just go out and openly spend and openly buy a house. You have to start saving, in parentheses, money out of every paycheck. Go and withdraw a little bit out of every paycheck. Start a payment plan on a house and then slowly make payments over the years, as opposed to paying off the house all at once because you have the money for it. Or if you know you have people that are a little dirty in the housing complex, you can pay them off all at once and then have the payments just come out a little bit at a time to make it seem legal. If you can find somebody shady enough to set that up. But I mean, they could screw you over at any time and request more payments. So now you're really sticking your neck out there, and if they get audited or something like that, and they find out they have a lot of money on hand, they're gonna ask them, "Hey, where's this extra money, and why ain't it on your taxes?" So there's also that methodology of getting caught too, and you have to fine tooth comb, go through every single idea and think about every single thing that you do. Is it worth a couple of $1 million to where you have to live your life calculating everything, staying on guard, making sure none of your friends find this extra money or know about it? You can't brag to anybody. You can't talk to anybody about it. You can't openly show the money to anybody about it. You just have to stay silent about it. The more people finds out, the closer you are to getting caught, because people are petty and they'll throw you away for anything. And again, even if you don't get caught stealing that particular person's couple of $1 million, if you get audited and the IRS says, we see that we have reports of you having a couple of millions of dollars, but we see that you haven't been posting that or paying for that tax wise. So, where'd the money come from, buddy? Or why haven't you been paying? And then the IRS comes and takes 80% of that in fines and fees, and you're left with a couple of 100,000 out of a couple of million. So, I mean, it's stones that you have to step on over and over and over and over and over and over and over to try to get away with something. My advice, just don't do it. Because not a lot of people have, big brain capacity to keep doing steps and plan steps on steps on steps on steps on steps on steps. But, you know, it is what it is. I just kind of wanted to get up to around about 3 hours because I could. I haven't did long streams. I said I was going to do a long stream, so I decided to just have a random chaos, well, not chaos theory, but a conspiracy type of lecture. Not lecture, a conspiracy type of talk, to where it's just like, it might work, it might not. It's probably not gonna work, but it's just something to think about. Whenever you try to do a particular thing, you have to keep in mind that doing said thing could cost you a whole lot more, and it's not worth the value of doing the thing that you thought. And most times, just keeping yourself clean and not worrying about any of that crap is the way to go. Embrace mediocrity. Anyway, my name's QTASTIC, and that's a conspiracy talk. I am going to go supplement my body with food. And I hope that everybody out there at least got some sort of entertainment and supplemented their lifestyle with what I said. It's all satire. It's supposed to be funny. It's supposed to get you to think a little bit. It's supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be, just kind of weirdly out there for no reason. So take everything I said with a grain of rice. Don't take notes. Please don't try to do what I just said. It's not going to work for you. And you need so many open connections to do what I'm talking about. Don't do it like that. Don't be crazy. Stay innocent, stay smooth, stay cool or warm because it's wintertime somewhere, it's summertime other places. Do whatever you got to do to supplement your lifestyle. Just try to keep it legal. Don't get yourself in trouble. And as always, I am QTASTIC, and I hope you enjoyed my ramble, my content, and everything else that I put out today. Hopefully, it's a little bit higher quality than anything else. Maybe it's the same and you don't notice anything. Regardless, which I have 20 seconds left, supplement your lifestyle. I'll be picking up Splinter Cell sometime later on tonight, and I will see all of you beautiful all of you beautiful people later.